You are listening to Vessel of Light. I'm Sam Renfro, Reiki Master, Fascial Maneuvers Coach, and someone who believes the body is not separate from the spiritual path. It is the spiritual path. This show lives at the intersection of two worlds that have been kept apart for too long: the wisdom of the spirit and the intelligence of the body. Every episode, we ask not just how to open what's been closed, but why it closed in the first place. If this feels alive for you, the Fully Human Collective is a free community that I created where we go deeper on exactly this. You can find the link in the show notes. Now, take a deep breath and let's begin. All right, we are back for another episode of Vessel of Light. My name is Sam Renfro. I am very, very happy to be here. And today we have an extra special episode. I selfishly always like to have these episodes based on what I am currently going through and really what helps me in life and what I feel like is going to be the most resonant for every one of my listeners. And I'm so delighted that one of my listeners actually reached out to me in a very, very synchronistic, resonant way. I have Anna here with me today, Anna Beaumont. She is a voice activation coach, for lack of a better word. I think she has many titles, many names, but essentially she's a singer that turned into a healer, turned her pain into her passion, into what really helps people, into her purpose, and just has a world of knowledge and experience when opening the throat. And I really especially just love this connection that happens on every level that we talked about. It's the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, and bringing all of that back into the body. So Anna, thank you so much for being here. I'm happy to have you.
I'm so happy to be here, Sam. So happy to be hanging out with you and talking about the voice, the big trigger for so many people. The voice. Yeah.
Yeah, the big trigger is so interesting because it can be a major block for a lot of people. I
It
know
is.
in my life it's something I'm still actively working through, but I would just love to hear a little bit about um when, a little bit more about your journey, but when was that moment where you realized that something was bringing this resistance to you, where you had to look a little bit deeper and kind of go down a more of a self-healing journey?
Oh, yes. Well, I began singing at a very young age, and I sang with my dad. Um, and it was just a natural path for me to go to music school, go to voice school, and then join a band, and then so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, I find myself, all these amazing opportunities are coming my way, and I'm thrust out into the world, and I'm singing in major concert halls in Europe and China and the US. And I am overwhelmed, but I don't know it yet. And eventually, my voice, which is my living, begins to diminish and go away, and terrifying. And so that was my big opportunity to. I came back home, and I couldn't get any help from anybody about what was happening with me. This was about 25 years ago. So it's, the start of all of this movement of, self-healing, and so I sat down, and I began to sing to myself and my own body instead of the audience.
Mm,
It was this moment where I felt my own vibrations of my voice. All it took was me to make that choice, Sam, to, like, "Anna, there's nobody that can help you," in a way. And I
mm,
just began to pour the vibration that I was, like, singing outwardly, and that direction of singing outwardly had clearly, emptied me, and it was also triggering a great deal of unmet, traumas inside of me, unmet you know this, and so but what was surprising is that the sound of my own voice, one note even, just, and if I really just paid attention, I could feel where it entered. I could
mm.
feel the journey of that note. I could feel where it was going, and all of a sudden, all of this beautiful energy that was just hadn't gone anywhere, you know, it was just all so terrifying because all of this was my living, began to just start to move through me, and it took me a long time. And I'm
Uh,
still at that I'm still sort of going through nooks and crannies in me that are like, oh my goodness, that are resistant to the light. And so,
and
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's humbling to hear even after 25 years of this work, of this self-work, of this helping people, it's like we don't ever get it perfect. We don't ever get it right. It's an ever and never-ending exploration of who we are, and at the same time,
Mm,
you you have to be the one to help yourself. I really find that
yeah.
to be so, so true when you make that decision, and maybe it's not even through this act of doing, but it's like, "Oh, how can I fully show up for myself? And when I do, what kind of magic happens?"
Yeah, and, like, I think I have to be desperate, you know? I think that a lot of people, when they come to me, they actually are at the end, like, they've done a whole bunch of things to try to fix, and I know I read in some of your languaging, you talk about fixing, and boy, I tell you, we are fixers, aren't we?
Yeah.
And, yeah, we're
Yeah.
fixers, and to actually move from fixing to feeling is something that I write about a lot, and I think you do too, and moving
Mhm.
from fixing to feeling is difficult. Feeling is the key word, and that's what sets all the energies moving, and, uh, people, I think, if I can say, like, people come to me and they say these words, "I want to fix my throat chakra."
They literally use that
Yep,
word.
yep, and
Mm.
then I
Wow.
sort of say, "Well, the throat chakra is stacked in a whole bunch of other chakras inside of your body. So your throat chakra is actually a reflection from your connection, and it's reflecting the whole of you. It is the barometer of your inner well-being. That is the sound of your voice is
Mhm.
reflecting the inner world." And this is still very, very big news for people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know this intuitively. I've felt this,
Mm.
but it's still big news for me, even just hearing you
Oh,
affirm it, right? Because that just what you said goes so much deeper than if you allow yourself to even just let it sink in. It
huh,
it is the divine expression of you, right? And if you can't let that come out clearly, then
yeah.
you're not letting your full self be seen in a way.
Definitely. There's a lot these days we talk about authenticity and being and like authentic. And my business is called the natural voice.
Mm,
I was the authentic voice for a while. And then I moved it into the natural voice because I wanted to uh just align it with the elemental body and using that, and that really the natural voice or the authentic voice. There are actually a lot of different voices in us, aren't there?
yeah,
And they
there
can
are.
each be authentic. So,
Well, I guess it's like authentic to it's authentic to the version of that voice, that version of that self that
yeah.
was, necessary, right, at that
Mm.
time
Yeah.
whenever it was
Yeah.
created, and I would love to kind of explore that with you of
Yeah.
how do you weed out those voices, or how do you work with and allow those voices to still be there, to still be present, but to not zero in on 1 or 2 or 3 and say, "Well, this is who I am, and
Oh,
that's it." Like, how do you know what is truth and what's
oh,
not?
such a great question. And a lot of people, when they come to me at first, they have 4 or 5 different parts of their voice that they can sing. But what's interesting is that those 4 and I was the same. I had a lot of different parts of my I had lots of different notes in this part of me and lots of different notes, but the notes were not connected through the breath and the energetic field. They would break, and I
Mm,
call it the split. So the voices so the actual training of the actual training of the voice so that the breath begins to unify all the notes. So the
mm,
notes themselves become one, not broken up. This is why actually singing is the doorway to helping heal the split, which is the separation inside of us that is compartmentalizing trauma. Did you
Mm.
hear that?
Yeah, I'm
So
like
that right?
visualizing it. I'm feeling it as like the fascial network, right? That I talk about all the time.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
your voice is actually that information flow that's going into all those places that you're talking about where the
Yeah.
trauma actually was, right?
Yes. And as the nature of trauma, as we know, the nature of trauma is that there wasn't a voice at that time.
Mm.
So the voice gets separated, the voice gets disconnected, and there is no voice.
Mm.
And that part that has to be compartmentalized and put away for a future so that when the river begins to run and we start to sing and all the notes start to and all the range of us, all the
Mm.
range of who we are as beings, it exists within the notes of our voice.
Mm.
The range of us as human beings is our spine, is our spine turned sideways as a piano, you know?
Wow.
Right? Isn't that crazy? Like if you turn me
Interesting.
sideways, I'm a chakra piano. I just love that.
I never had thought
Ah,
about it that way.
I love it.
So cool.
So then
Mm.
so we know that in the body, there's all these breaks and these interruptions to the flow of energy just because this is our human process here. So
Mhm.
then it goes to say that there would be a break within the scale, there would be a break within the notes.
Mm.
So this is what makes it a really good way of people to access compartmentalized trauma and feelings and blocks where all that beautiful life energy is being stored is by doing these exercises, doing things that expose the compartmentalization.
So when you and I could be totally wrong, but I would love to walk through this process with you. When you're allowing your voice to open through song, through tones, through resonance, right? You're kind of finding all those different notes where you can go high and then you drop down low and then all of a sudden there's a and it
Yeah.
just stops, right? And that's
Yeah.
kind of where that blockage is.
Yes. Yes. And there's this spectrum. And in the Italian art school, they call it the chiaroscuro. The
Mm,
chiaro means light and scuro means dark.
mm,
Chiaroscuro, which is exists within the sound of our voice, the light and the dark. And the separation between the light and the dark, which happens so much, doesn't it? Like we meet people that are very light and they're very pleasing and they're happy, but they're dismissing their dark. They're pushing their
mhm.
scuro away.
Yeah,
And then we meet
yeah.
people that are very, dark and serious, but this is not a bad thing. This is just who we are as people. And all of that is crazy. It gets reflected exactly in the sound of the voice of that person.
Mhm.
So
That's
isn't that something?
yeah. It's and I'm thinking about how the voice is kind of a magnet, right? It's like the
Mhm.
one that's gonna pull in all the people and places and situations for you to understand your own healing, right?
Oh,
It's gonna
yeah.
allow you to manifest things to or to attract that person that's gonna bring up that emotion in you that you're gonna now be able to hopefully process so that you can
Yeah.
access more of the light through the dark, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And this is actually what I talk about with my students because if there's a block, we can work quite hard to fix, but we don't want to work hard to fix. We want to
Mhm.
listen, and then I want to hear who, who is in that person's life that has triggered them so we can bring in all the aspects of that person's life to help the little block that is in the spine and in the throat to just
Mm,
gently show itself so that the energies begin to flow again. I think probably early on in my life, and I know early on in my teaching life, I used to work quite hard to get the voice to open.
mm,
And as I've taken all these trainings and learned and opened myself, it is the most subtle of sounds that is what we need. We need this etheric field. We need we need this etheric light to be able to access it so that it just goes and trickles open. It opens, and
mm,
then the voice is there, and we live in a society, and I'm sure you can say something about this, Sam, that the pusher in us, which is a personality, the pusher, wants to push and wants to get it now.
yeah.
It's the gratifying of now. I want it now. I want to get my voice and I want it now, right?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of many situations in my life where I needed to happen now. I wanted to happen now, and of
Yeah.
course, like I was speaking with a woman earlier, I was having a short intuitive session, but it's like it's not going to. If we just get that instant gratification now, what is that going to solve?
Yeah.
It's not going to allow me. If I have a block and I just go and say, okay, I'm going to do that thing that it's just going to like solve it for me. And then where did I learn and how can I now help people transform that within them if I didn't actually learn the way to do it on my own? And so we want
Well,
everything handed to us on
yes, yes.
flat, but it just doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, there's no reward in that.
Yeah, yeah. There doesn't develop the inner sage, the sage, the part of us that needs to take responsibility for our lives and for our all these blocks, and that we're on our own. I remember one voice teacher said to me, I have you for 30 minutes a week, and the rest of it, you're on your own and you just got to figure it out, right? You just got to figure it out. And it's true. And so, that's mostly what I have done is figured it out. But, I
Uh,
think some of the biggest, I think earlier you mentioned something about all these personalities these voices that come in, and I'm just gonna name a few of them to see whether or not this is what you mean. I'm pretty sure you do, like the critic, the, perfectionist. I
mm,
mentioned the pusher already, the controller, the control so all of these voices, and there are many of them, I call them the first responders.
mm,
So the first responders on the scene when we're young and when something happens to us that we have no way of dealing with. And
mm,
so what is given birth is a personality to come and help protect us and keep us safe and to hold and compartmentalize that piece of energies. And they come in all sorts of different forms. But then when we come to a voice lesson, there's all these different personalities that come out to try to protect the vulnerability of that singer. So, you had mentioned that a little earlier, and I think now we're getting to it, just getting to the crux of all of this. So, so people go through a battle in front of me as all these, and I can see these sort of personalities coming out and trying to protect the singer from being exposed. Because these personalities know that I'm gonna take them down.
yeah.
Right. So, the controller controls the energy within the body, and it is really in the solar plexus and the whole body. But so anyway,
Mhm.
that's just an intro to all of these psychological selves that why did I end up going into all of this? Because I'm a singer and I want to know who is running the show.
Mm. I would love to ask your perspective because I feel like there's two schools of thought and two different ways of doing things, and one is just to disengage, to not feed those voices at all, to not pay
Uh,
attention to them, to kind of starve them out in a way where it's like I'm just gonna detach a little bit from the fear, from the control, from all of the stories, right, that play. And then there's another school of thought that are saying, okay, well, actually these are parts that need to be healed and integrated
mhm.
into our being so that they are not, I don't want to say they're not there anymore, but they're not running the show and they're able to feel seen and loved, and then they can kind of quiet down a little bit. And obviously, I'm feeling that you were leaning more towards that side. But why do you think that is that we have these different ways in which
Mhm.
there are different approaches? I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's such a great question, Sam. And it's a divider of people, isn't it? There are 2 schools of thought. I think you just covered it. And I think it's a form of gaslighting
Uh,
to say that that didn't happen or that it did happen and I can actually control it and keep it down
um,
because it's making people sick. It's
well, it causes a battle in the mind, right?
it does.
Like, what do I listen to? And it gets louder and louder. Okay,
Louder
no,
and
but
louder.
then and then you're like caught in this in between, and
Yeah.
I've, I've certainly seen that in
Oh,
my own world.
me too. I actually went, I had the great fortune of having an incredible coach and mentor in an approach called Voice Dialogue International. So
Mm,
I spent like 10, 12, 11 years studying the psychological selves with this master.
uh-huh.
So I have a deck of card called the Authentic Voice cards, and they're all these personalities that and the opposites. So it is a huge piece of my work. So I'm glad we're talking about it. But I think it's very difficult for us as people. I think that we want to think the best. We want to be pleasant. We want to be in the light. So
Um,
we're like, well, that's not the light. I want to be positive. This is the word I'm trying to say. I want to be positive. That's negative. I don't want to go into the negative. Well, that's not the way it works. It's a spectrum of dark and light, isn't it? And
uh-huh.
and we are living above the water level here, and then there's all this other material from our lives that are below the water level, and we sing, and as soon as we start to sing, boy, I tell you, you can it just all shows itself.
Yeah,
It shows itself, which is probably why people are so scared to sing or scared to use their voice because it's really exposing.
yeah. Yeah. I've used that word a lot lately. It's like
Exposing?
where the body, yeah, exposed,
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, oh, I feel like open, like there's no more hiding, and I'm just here, like, whoa. And at the same time, I think my being knows that that is the only way forward.
Oh, bless your heart, Sam. You and I are both together in this. And it's really not for the faint of heart. And some people will just never do it. And I'm certainly at that point, I think that I'm not, I just keep myself, I'm discerning, very discerning in how I speak. Obviously, I have to respect people's paths and what it is that they're choosing to do in this lifetime to not go down this path, and that's completely understandable because it's too much.
Mhm.
It can be too
Yeah.
much.
I think
Mhm.
it's really only too much if you don't have the proper care, the
Yeah,
proper,
yeah.
support, because
Mhm.
I and this is very much where I'm at right now. I've reached the point of no return, right? So
Yeah,
you go further and further and further into that negative, into that path. And of course, along the way, you get just as much light access as well, right? So the pendulum's now swinging a little bit further each
yeah,
time. I've spoken about that before. But I think when you get to those points where it just feels so overwhelming and so intense, you have no idea what to do.
yeah,
And you're looking around like, oh my God, how did I get here? I, I feel like I'm worse off than I started, which is
yeah.
not true.
I know.
And you're like,
Oh,
oh, no, and it's like you're in this storm, but at the same time, you're just right, really, really close to the other side of that breakthrough,
it's
right?
true.
And
It's true.
yeah,
Yes, and I think that, you said something again about not having the right help, and not knowing there's something out there that can help you. A
um,
and I know that feeling myself years and years and years ago when I was, starting on this journey. I just didn't which was actually a blessing because I did go inside and learn and really access a great deal of my own inner resources. Um,
uh-huh,
but, I've excavated and dug around in there enough that I can help people, and you have too. And there are
uh-huh,
lots more of us out there now that can speak the way that we are and
Yeah.
know that that to enter the dark, to enter, um, you know, let's just say enter energy, enter that part of us that doesn't feel good. Because sometimes even the languaging is, but when we're singing and a student comes to, and they can't access the low voice or, so that was me. I can
Mm,
sing as I can sing so high. I could sing so freaking high. I could always sing really high, so I had a lot of light access,
interesting that you
and
use
then but
that
I
word.
I had a hard time with the low because I wasn't really connected to my body. I was disconnected
Interesting.
to my from my body for a long, long time until I obviously did the work.
And that lower takes this more core activation,
Yeah,
right? It takes those like lower tones that
yeah,
are yeah, that's
yeah.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then there's that meeting place of the light and the dark or the high notes and the low notes, which is the throat, which is this
Um,
bottleneck, this place where it's like the rivers meet. And that is the opportunity for the I'll say it in different ways now. So the light and the dark to come together through these little tiny vocal cords, the masculine and the feminine to come together through these little tiny vocal cords, the personal and the impersonal, the treble and the bass, call it what you will. There's so many ways
um,
that we can frame this in order to get the learning of what are patterns. So if you're in relationship, I mean, I want to know what's going on in my voice in relationship. Well, all
um,
relationships, but especially if you're in a love relationship that there's problems going on.
so when you're, I have so many questions. And I very much agree, right? You wanna know in all the areas of your life that this extends to. So when you're finding that place in the nervous system, the spine, right? They're
Yeah.
they're one and the same. Um, and in the voice, how are you and stop me if I'm wanting to give too many of your secrets away, but how do you discern where and how that's showing up? So let's say we got through a place in me. Okay, this is in my solar plexus. It's in this certain part of my spine. This is the way that it's showing up because I can probably explain that to you, right, and affirm it. And then you have these techniques to overcome or to work with the voice to allow it to soften those areas in
Yeah.
you, to allow it to reach those areas of the dark. What is the work in between or the work in which that shows up with the voice? Is it these voice exercises? Is it how do you are you using your intuition to understand, oh, this is the
Ah,
block or
I
um
see. I see. Oh, okay. So I've been teaching voice for a very long time and I have lots of voice exercises and I keep learning more and I'm
mm,
becoming a surgeon with going in and using the right voice exercise,
mm,
and the right collection of voice exercises to very gently tell the rib cage to begin to support, tell the rib cage "Hmm," through through the airflow and through the effortlessness of the sound. And we work
um,
to get the airflow surfing with the vocal cords until the body gives way and the rib cage and the support system begins to flow and surf. And these exercises are really simple. They're really simple exercises. Um, there is there is a grouping of exercises that we should try. One of them is like what we're doing is we're taking breaths. So if we have like an F, if we just exhale an F, try that.
how
Yeah.
do I know it's an app?
Yeah, and the sound of an F is a funny thing. F, f, f,
Oh,
f, f.
oh, I see.
Yeah,
Not the tone F, but
no,
just the
that's right. An F. So there is airflow. Okay,
okay.
so there is airflow. Now, immediately you might notice that it's touching your solar plexus because it's starting to regulate through the lips. It's regulating breath.
Yeah.
And so it's creating a back pressure into your solar plexus, okay?
Hmm.
So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a sound, and we're gonna sound the F, which makes it a V.
Okay, I feel
Right.
that.
Okay, so now you need to have quite a bit more air coming through in order to create a release or a softening inside of the solar plexus. So I'll try it. Uh, so I know that's working because my solar plexus is enjoying it and my rib cage is enjoying it. So
Mm,
that's your barometer. We'll just do this. Just do it a couple times and just see.
yeah.
Good, and then you
I
got
can
it
really,
right, and then you're gonna need to take another breath, right? So,
yeah,
it what did you notice?
I can feel it in my ribs, like both sides.
Yeah.
They're talking. Yeah.
Yeah, so what we do is we work to get a beautiful effortlessness, and it turns into a pleasurable, enjoyable feeling, when the right amount of breath and the right amount of sound meet and
Mm.
create this beautiful explosion of well-being in the body. Oh my god, never said it like that. This
I love that.
oh my
We
god,
should write that down.
this beautiful little well-being just explodes in the nicest, gentlest way, so that when we sing, we have something that we can go, "Oh, well, I wanna feel like that."
Mm,
And we so all these little simple exercises are teaching the nervous system and the body to be able to support the voice in a whole different way.
interesting. And when you, and I'm purely asking all these questions because I'm just very excited to work with you.
Yeah.
But, when you have somebody who's not a singer, right? Of course, you work
Yeah.
with people that are not just trying to
Yeah.
have this inflection and this freedom of their voice, right? This ripples
Mostly.
out
Yeah.
into mostly you are
Yeah.
or no?
Mostly I am working with probably about 50-50 people that
Okay.
wanna just be free.
Mm. So when you're working with people who don't have a background of singing and that's not their goal, do you start to see like this the freedom of emotions that come? Do you start to see this ripple out into their lives?
Yeah.
Do you start to see that the more power like comes through their voice when they speak? I mean, that's what we're doing, right?
Yes, yes, and at first, most of the time, the sound of their voice ends up going from being too pushed to being gentle, so it goes the other way. Some
Hmm.
people go from being gentle to being more assertive, and some people go from being, "I'm in control, and I'm really happening, and here's the sound of my voice," to, "Oh my god, okay, so I can relax and I can just let this effortlessness be here. I don't have to work hard." And all of this, you can imagine, is a psychology of one's
Mm.
conditioning, and if if they've had to adopt a pushing in the workforce in order to be taken seriously, or
Uh,
if they had to adopt a really timid voice in the home because the father was abusive and violent, like, you
mm.
can just see across the board, there's all these things that when people come to me, women and men, and they're on the spectrum of some kind of adopting protection and ways of being that we have to do in order to survive.
Yeah, I'm even thinking about the ribs, right? The ribs are holding the capacity, right?
Mm,
And when you feel them expand, or when you feel them, maybe the lack of
yeah.
expansion, right? Then
Yeah.
you're not able to take up space if your ribs are contracted. So you want to bring more space so that you can feel like you can take up more space in the room and be
Oh,
seen. And
yeah. And I
yeah,
was actually doing my 12 o'clock online class today, and I we did some work with the ribs. And I will say to your listeners that one of the things in order to connect to the ribs really quickly is to have a little smile in your buccinators here, and let I call the ribs the smiling ribs because they're smiling. You can see the
Mm,
ribs are smiling. So we want the
yes.
smile here, and as we breathe, immediately, so this is a bit of a switch on for the vagal tone too, right? Here and here.
Mhm.
And then the rib cage sits up and says hi. You can feel that. If you just do a little, the rib cage immediately sits up a little bit.
Just when you smile?
When you smile and activate this vagal pathway with the eyes softening and the I call this, but by the way, this is my cute little thing. These are the curtains and these are the crinkles. So we have to have curtains and crinkles a little bit activated in order to activate the vagus nerve, in order to soften the body, in order for the ribs to come out of their defensive mode
Mm,
and to be in a sense of readiness. This brings space to the solar plexus, doesn't it? And
yeah,
then there's this feedback loop, and then when we make it, there's just you can see it just is this domino effect.
yeah, yeah, it's so, so interesting, and I love this framework because it's, just a completely different way of looking at the body that not only that I teach, but also
Mhm.
that most people even think about.
Yeah,
How these facial structures, how these sounds, these vibrations are actually affecting your body all the time and your posture. And we haven't even talked about that, but it's
yeah,
like there are so many different layers that if you can start to notice how you're operating on a day-to-day basis,
yeah.
even moment to moment, then that creates these different loops or different thoughts, emotions that come up, and then those start to, and then they're ping ponging back and forth. Where okay, now my
Yeah.
reality and my experience is created by something that in my body, and my body is created by something that was in my, and it's like, whoa, okay,
Oh my God, that's so beautiful. This physiological system that we are. And I think I read on one of your podcasts, how much of it is past trauma and how much of it is just the way that we are behaving and operating absolutely as a result of past conditioning. But how much can we just change things right in that moment? And as a result of what you just said and what we're talking about, and the voice and our relationships is one of the biggest ways that
yeah,
where all this
yeah,
shows up.
yeah. I've been really starting to be mindful of how can I listen to the body right now.
Mm.
Maybe I don't need to discover a story that's been being played out for 10, 20 years. Maybe it's that actually there's a future version of me connecting to me right now, sending a
Mm.
signal into my ribs,
Oh,
inviting me to change something or to do something different. And I've been really playing around with that future versus past, what's stored, what is just actually this as a full instrument that's being attuned to these ways in which we can't see. We just have to learn how we are being kind of played, if that's what you want to think about, or how we can actually play with the divine in this physical vessel. So I just been really understanding, oh, okay, cool. If I just like, you know, um, listen a little bit more, then I can just go this way. And I didn't quite see it, but you know,
and it becomes so simple.
yeah,
And this is
yeah,
the thing is that that is beautiful. This simple act of listening and these voice exercises, they're so simple. There are, but they take care of so many things. And I think we're at a time in our evolution where there's a lot more simple things are getting simplified, thank goodness.
yeah.
Do you think so? Like the complexity of the mind is obviously something that we're having to address.
I think people are craving simplicity. I think
Yes.
as the world
Yes.
continues to ramp up and go so much
Yeah.
faster, and there are so many different ways in which we can do things, I think there's a lot of contrast depending on what
Yeah.
reality you live in the world. But I think as much as we can simplify the things that
Yeah.
we have to do, the things that we don't necessarily want to do, and the ways in which we can understand, then we stop overcomplicating everything and we just get back to the root of what do we want, what's keeping us from having it, and okay, now we have all these tools, let's say AI or whatever, to like
Yeah.
simplify our life so that we can live our passion. I mean, that's just one example, but
Yeah.
I think as much as we can simplify the
Yeah.
things in which we're doing, we're working with, we're just here to live that one true um path for us,
Mm.
right? And we try to do 20 things at once and it's just a
Right.
lot of noise.
Well, it is, and, we've heard this phrase, "living our best lives," how many times now? And I think
Yeah.
that's a setup if there ever if there ever was one. I think it's what we want for sure, but it's
Well,
become something that is like, I think, a crazy making thing for people because they're like, well, it's a complexity in it, and then and the whole thing about being in the moment and feeling and listening, which is what you were just saying, and listening to what is the just this where do I want to go next? And but developing that listening means that we have to slow down a great deal.
yeah,
We
and
have
you
to
have to
feel.
yeah, you have to stop listening to all the 50 voices telling you what you should do and
Yeah,
what the best way to get there is and truly listening.
yeah.
I spoke about this in the last episode, but and not to jump in a different direction, but I would love to hear what you think about prayer and what you think about using your voice to connect to something that's higher than you, or how you can use your voice to uncover some of those beliefs, or because I have this practice where I go in the morning where I literally just talk to God, and I've spoken about this before, but just truly inviting what needs to come out and then also anchoring what I want to come in, and that's kind of
Mm.
my version of prayer right now, but
Oh,
do
I
you have a
love
practice
that.
like that you do?
Well, I've had lots of different spiritual trainings, or I've delved into like A Course in Miracles. I've gone down many roads in this relationship with prayer,
Mm,
and I think that it is our intention. Uh, there's this beautiful formula that I learned from, and his name will come to me. I hope it does because I want to honor him. It's vibration plus intention equals manifestation and healing. Jonathan
mm,
Goldman.
okay.
Jonathan Goldman from the Sound Healers Institute. So vibration plus intention equals manifestation and healing. So this
Mm,
is something that I work with a great deal in my classes and with myself. But it is the alignment of that vibration inside of us that helps the prayer.
yeah, yeah,
And using these voice exercises to balance dark and light, to balance our heart is, I don't think we've said the word heart through this whole thing,
yeah,
right? Because yes. So there's the balancing of the sound that is coming through here and the balancing of the sound that is coming through here, and they meet at the vocal cords. And then
mm,
that is the when they do balance, adding a prayer to that or vice versa is adding the vibration plus the intention equals the manifestation and healing.
yeah,
That is powerful. And when I'm doing my retreats, because we're always setting things up where we have time, because we're on a retreat, we're on 7 days or 3 days. So that prayer of what you're saying and the vibration is really crazy powerful. And it just sort
mm,
of has a momentum that is magical. That just
yeah,
takes all of us together and just undoes a lot of things in people.
mm. Yeah, and you're kind of, affirming that the mind and the words are I don't want to use the word useless, but it's like when you don't have the right
Mm,
alignment, like the right inner vibration, then it's just going to be you
yeah,
saying some things and it's not actually going to come
yeah,
back. It's just like, okay, let me vent a little bit. And of course, it
yeah,
goes deeper than that, depending on how you're using it. But I love that
yeah,
you're bringing the heart into it. You're bringing the physical body and saying we're gonna be safe. We're gonna be
yeah,
truly aligned, and then from there, we're gonna send that signal wide out as much as we can for it to
yeah.
come back in the way that we are truly
Yeah, and at that
intended.
point, it's really none of my business, you know? You know? It's just none of my
Yeah.
business, like, I have no control over this, I don't have much c I don't feel I have much control over many things, Sam, to be honest with you. The older I
Yeah.
get, the but I can certainly take care of my little alignment and my responsibility, and then let things, unfold as they do, and I just as best as I can, try to accept the moment,
Uh,
accept what's here, and, listen to, what wants to happen.
yeah.
And the thing is that one note, just making one note. So I'm just gonna sing like a I do this in my classes a lot. It's the third eye activation, and everybody's got a
Cool.
different note. Everybody's got a different note, but sometimes I will call it windshield clearing, like clearing your windshield of your car because we get all and we
Mm,
need clarity. Doing one note can sometimes just help us to let the light in.
mm,
Ooh, and then it stopped on its own.
mm.
Yeah, and so these little drops of notes.
And when you I'd love to hear your opinion on this and your perspective as well. When you allow yourself to bring that note out of your own being, out of your own voice, is it the vibration that is actually clearing everything internally for you, or is it actually affecting everyone around you as well? Like, am I
Mm,
as I'm hearing this? Of course, I can feel
mm,
something, but
mhm.
what do you think about that relationship between how it comes from within and goes without?
Good question, and this is a big thing too, like, it's going down and out. So it's going
Mm,
down in, so that note is I feel inside of me, that note what it did inside of me right now is it actually created a nice space in my stomach and my rib cage. My solar plexus softened and I got a little bit more lift in my energy.
mm,
So I can feel my side ribs a little bit more. I kind of feel like above my head a little bit more space. I feel like my auric, my field sort of stretched out. And
mm,
I can sort of feel like I can pull it out of my ears and my head, and you can do these notes and I can do them for a long period of time. I don't know why. I just have developed my body in such a way that I can do that. And as the sound is going out and impacting other people for sure, like yourself right now,
mm,
it's equal and oppositely impacting my whole entire body in the most
mm,
subtle way and bringing a sense of harmony to the cells and in letting light sprinkle. It's like a light sprinkle, and you can feel it.
mm.
Can't you?
Yeah,
The vibration
yeah,
of that. It's raining down upon us a little bit right now.
yeah. It's a good image to have raining down because it's
Mm,
just like this almost like this blanket that's just
yeah. It's
and
like
it just
the grounding of us. The one of the things that
mm,
I say a lot is the sound that grounds is the ground that sounds.
mm,
The sound that grounds, because that's what it's doing. It's actually going down inside of it. It's going out, but do you remember when we
mm,
first started this whole conversation as a sort of a whole button to this? I said that the sound that was coming outside of me to my audiences and all of that big performing was
Mhm.
one directional, I felt. I wasn't really feeding myself.
I see.
Real vibrational healing is the other direction going down inside of me receiving the feminine principle of receptivity, me
Um,
receiving my voice. And that's what my healing journey did when I switched into that.
well, I don't know if you have that on your website or anything, but that is just beautiful to hear you receiving your voice because it's not
Mm,
something you're accessing that's outside of you, or
yeah.
it's not, it's just like this true coming home. I talk about the
Mm,
embodiment a lot, but when you receive your voice,
yeah.
you're just, different. You're just more you, right?
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
brings you into the earth, doesn't it? It brings you into the
Mhm.
ground of your being.
Yeah.
But that's somewhere I didn't want to be. I have to say, I just didn't want to be in my body. And I think a lot of people can understand that because there was too much going on in here that I didn't know what to do with. But
Yeah.
the sound of my voice and the sound of the voice is an organizational principle because it's vibration. So it's mathematical in its essence.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
frequencies.
it is, and I often think about because I do a lot of sound healings with my partner. She has these beautiful crystal bowls, these
Mm.
alchemy bowls that have different crystals in them that are infused, and um, we now have she bought a gong.
Oh,
Actually, we have
wow.
another gong, and we've been collecting all these instruments, right? These little seeds, little chimes. I just recently got a didgeridoo. I have a
Oh,
couple of flutes. So we're playing around with these different instruments, and oftentimes I think about, and we mention this to people too. Sometimes if you're feeling a little bit activated, or if you're feeling a little bit, um, let's just say uneasy or unsettled through certain parts of the journey of the sound, then it's actually coming up for you to heal it. But then I also think about, as quote unquote a sound healer, right? You have these different instruments, these different tones that people have deemed as healing. And what I actually think is that every sound that you're hearing is here to help you, here to heal you.
wow.
And I would love to hear your perspective on just certain sounds in general being a little bit more,
Yeah.
or a little bit more like, like, and is it, in your opinion, that I mean, things can settle the nervous system and allow you to calm down and relax, but that's not always what healing is,
No.
right?
No, there's
Yeah.
traffic. There's everything, and it's developing a body that can tolerate the range of, all the range of the notes, and those are the beautiful notes and the chaotic notes, and if yeah, because otherwise we'd
Mhm.
have to exist in a bubble, wouldn't we, right?
Yeah,
You
and it
know?
would be all light and no dark, like you talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
the thing, I also wanna share something that this so when I'm talking to you and you're actually when you're talking to me, I should say, the sound of your voice is touching my body.
Mm,
So the sound of your voice touches my body and helps me to be here.
mm,
So right now, the sound of my voice is touching your body, isn't it? And it's
mhm,
helping you to be here. Now, that right there in a relationship is something that I don't know that I've heard a great deal about. It's just, I can feel the sound of my voice right now in my pelvis, in my legs, in my chest, my speaking voice, just that, just that. So, and then
mhm,
there's all these other sounds, but everything, as you say, when there's a sound that comes up in a healing session or a feeling, it's there for a reason.
mhm,
It's all here, isn't it? It's all here to help us purify that which cannot stand the light of,
mhm.
you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's, it's something that I think we forget and remember and forget and
Yeah.
remember, you know?
I know, and I always forget, like your voice right then touched me right here. When you
Mm,
when you So when I'm really, really listening to you, it will go right through my body and just go out, and, like, it will just connect. It that's we are these vessels of light,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
handle. So, as I hear you speak, I mean, it's a beautiful coming together of the oneness that we are.
Mhm. And I think about this from a practitioner standpoint
Mm.
too, because you've done so much work to clear out your voice and open it so where it's actually, like you said, you've received your voice, it's coming
Mm.
through. People feel that on a much
Mm.
deeper level.
Yeah.
And when trying to figure out how to price things and how to know what your sessions are worth,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you have to take all that into account because people feel you on such a different level than they're going to feel somebody else. And that unique frequency is going to carry its own weight, if you will, right?
Yeah, that was beautiful. And can I actually answer one of the questions that you asked me earlier
Hmm.
about the personalities and about the authenticity and how do we know when we are being authentic? I think
Mm,
that we just
yeah.
answered it.
Yeah,
You
when
know,
it's your true
just that
frequency.
when your voice is touching me in my body and it feels like it's landing in a way that opens my heart and in a way that settles me and regulates me.
Mm,
When I do that for you and we do that for each other, I mean, I think that's pretty authentic. I think we could probably say that is a natural connection between two people, and that the voice is the activator.
hmm. Yeah, the word that's coming to me is collaboration, right? We're co-creating,
Mm,
co-collaborating
mm,
the experience, and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
beautiful.
Mm, very nice.
Well, I think that's a good place to sort of wrap things up as we think about creating these new experiences together, whether this be on the podcast or people out in their everyday lives and they're experiencing that they're creating something together with their best friend or with the grocery store clerk, or,
Yeah,
just really is letting that settle in of, oh, I am a part of this, and in a much bigger way than I could have imagined. And if
yeah,
people wanna feel that with you a little bit deeper,
yeah.
a little bit more, if they wanna explore this work that you have so graciously, shared with us, what's the best way that they can find you?
They can go to my website, annabeaumont.com, and there's lots of ways of finding me through there. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so
Oh my
much.
goodness, Sam, what a great conversation. I can feel like you and I just went into a different level there at the end. It
Yeah,
was beautiful.
I'm like, this could really, lead into something really cool. Like I just have all these questions that are just going through my mind, but I want to not take all the time in the world. But I'm really excited. I would love to work with you, and I hope
Same.
other people are inspired as well because this is really, really. It's a deeper embodiment on just a totally different way, and everybody has their gifts and their strengths, but it just seems so powerful and unique. And
Mm.
thank you for providing it for the world.
Yeah, my pleasure. And right back at you, Sam.
Mm,
Your beautiful podcast and the way that you word things and say things is really next level. So, thank
mm.
you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I really
Take care.
do. Thanks for reaching out. And for everyone who has been listening, I hope that you got the world out of this. You're feeling more in your body and more inspired and just settled in your own nervous system. And my wish is that you carry that out and to your day and to your week. And we will see you next time.